ओम नमो वेंकटेशाय। श्री वेदांत महाचलम हि परितः संयोज्य सूत्राहिपं सद्वातागम पोषितात्म हृदयं तत्पूर्व पक्षासुरैः सिद्धांतोक्ति सुरेश्वरैश्च मथितो यः कृष्ण दुग्धांबुधिः स्वीयानाम् अमृतं प्रयच्छति समां पायात् गुणोद्यन्मणिः। Bhakti itself is defined again by Madhvacharya as Mahatmya Jnanapurvastu Sudridhaha Sarvato Adhikaha Sneho Bhaktiriti Proktaha Taya Muktir Nachanyatha. Is a very extremely loaded definition. Mahatmya Jnanapurvastu. See, it has to be accompanied by the knowledge that Paramatma is the most supreme entity. Okay. Then Sudridhaha. It has to be very firm. You should not be wavering. In situations of Sankatakala, you forget about Paramatma and blame him, and in other situations you go to the temple, do 10 pradakshinas, 20 pradakshinas, get coconuts broken, so many things you do. It's not. That is Sudridhaha. Sarvato Adhikaha. You love many things. You love your wife, love your children, love your neighbors, love your officers, love your colleagues, but this love for Paramatma to be called as bhakti has to be of the highest order. It is to be much, and in other loves you have sometimes love, sometimes hatred, that wavers, whereas in the case of Paramatma to be called as bhakti, it has to be sudridha. So sudridha sarvato adhikaha sneho bhaktiriti proktaha taya muktir nachanyatha. Now you can say that I know Paramatma is great, Mahatmya Jnanapurva. It may not be firm. So to know that Paramatma is really great in the scientific manner, you will have to get your Indriyas control, your Buddhi control, Buddhi properly developed, Manas control. So Indriya, Manas, Buddhi are mischievous elements dragging you to the opposite direction. So if the prescription of Mahatmya Jnanapurvastu implies that you must control your Indriyas and Manas, the question comes as to how you do it. So the entire Bhagavad Gita tells you how you control your Indriyas and Manas. By not controlling, you will be getting into a situation where you question Mahatmya Jnana. So you will not be firm on that. Buddhi as a power of reasoning has to tell you what is right or wrong. So how do you get that discriminatory power, Viveka, in a natural way? Therefore, then you will have to conform to certain disciplines of life. So all these vrata, niyama, puja, punaskara, all these things come as aids or as steps towards that realization of that status. So if most of us consider them as end in themselves. So I tell many examples. You do puja for 1 hour and somebody else puja for 2 hours. So he says, I am doing puja for 2 hours. I am doing puja for 3 hours. The end of the puja, if your antahkarana shuddhi has not taken place, if your attitude towards others in the family, in the society, has not been free from kama, krodha, lobha, at the end of the puja you start becoming angry, shouting and hating others, then your puja has not been effective. So to get into a situation which is called in the technical jargons as trigunathitatva, that is free from the effects of sattva-guna, rajoguna, tamoguna. So you need to do many more things. So merely by telling that bhakti would lead to paroksha jnana and therefore moksha, is not a very, it looks simplistic, but it has a number of implied actions needed. Now coming to the modern example, you see, you join the office and certain duty list is given to you only as an indicative thing. Suppose if the boss asks you to bring vegetables every day for pleasing his family, then that is beyond the duty list. You can take him to task, you can question that. But if there are many what are called as KEPs, is it? KPIs, they are all in a way part of the corporate system, wherein you will have to improve your personality in a wider perspective. So I would consider the job list given to you in the beginning and the KPIs expected of you are designed in such a way that your personality development takes place ultimately. So you can't really question those things, you will have to conform to them. But the message that is given is that you do it for the corporate sector. Don't do it with the objective of getting your promotion. If you do it with an intensity of feeling for the good of the corporate sector, good of the society, good of the mankind, sooner or later you are bound to get. Of course, the system has got many biases, prejudices, negativities and so on. Obstacles might be there, but in those situations of obstacles, don't get depressed and you continue to do your work. I am sure I can tell with the experience of my own life, I also faced a number of situations of ups and downs, negative responses from the others, but if you have this bent of mind, you will not get very much bogged down, but ultimately the success will be yours. This is the message of the profound work culture. Yes.
The Krishna preaches the Arjuna, Niyatam Kuru Karmatva. But generally we observe in society that every human being, without motivated by the ends of the karma or contemplating the ends of the karma, does not work.
Yes.
Then being motivated by the ends of the karma, he does the work. Then karma lepa enters. So how the Bhagavad Gita eradicates this karma?
Very practical question. Very practical question. That is why the modality of performing karma has been classified into pravritta karma and nivritta karma. Now you say that the phala motivates you to work. True. Bhagavad Gita does not say that you should not have an agenda for achieving something. You should have a goal, a target, an ambition, a vision, aspiration. Everything is permitted. Only thing that is stated is don't get over obsessed by that while you are performing. Again, earlier I have given an example, I can again repeat that. A student is told that your goal of studying is to get 99% marks. An officer has a goal of getting quick promotions. Now suppose either of them is over obsessed with that goal, he or she would think of dubious methods of getting at it. The student may get into the habit of finding out who is the examiner, how much money I can give, how can I get the paper leaked from the printing press, or can I give some money to the paper examiner, paper setter, can I ask my father to use his influence. He goes to a neighbor, your father is a very senior education officer or a police inspector, why not you go and find out. So he will adopt 100 ways of getting into the goal. So yes, motivation should come from the goal, obviously, but while performing, you do it with one-mindedness, you see, do or die kind of approach. Then only you will be able to get the rewards. If you are doing your work relentlessly without any prejudices in relation to others, you are bound to get certain rewards which were unexpected. That is the motivation. Motivation should be to do your work perfectly. So I always tell to everyone, as a result of the Bhagavad Gita message, that your motto of life should be to do the job which you have taken now very perfectly. To the students, to the office goers, to the teachers, to the ministers, to public at large, housewives or house owner, whosoever it is, whatever is the job on hand, do it perfectly and do it with a motive of serving the mankind. Mankind is a broader term, God is still broader term, but serving the family, serving the society, then without creating troubles to the others. So if this is the work culture which Krishna is emphasizing. Niyatam kuru karmatvam karma. So there the second part is important. Karma jayohi akarmanaha. So even that sloka of karmanya adhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. So many commentators have said, do your work. See, karmani is ekvachana, phaleshu is bahuvachana. The final rewards come as a result of the work of many people. It's not just your own work, but you do your work, and in economics that is called as marginal productivity based wage theory. Whatever is contributed by you on the margin would be the reward eligible to you, and that will come to you. So don't try to say that the final profits and the profit sheet or the balance sheet of the company is due to you, so you must have a very big share out of it. Don't think like that. So the basic objective is to say that you do your work relentlessly, meticulously, without any prejudices or biases. Then the rewards will come. You see, most of the time, thinking about prejudices and biases, our productivity goes down and our contribution comes down. That is the work culture which is, and this is, I feel, the most relevant message for present day times. See, office goers don't do their work properly, public at large, students don't do, teachers don't do, and the result is that everywhere an environment of low quality, low standard, and total failure of the system. You see, efficiency in your own work is yoga. So the individual or the society or the system which gives emphasis on performance of duties in a relentless manner is bound to prosper, is bound to gain. That is the message here.
I would like to know why people are very stressful in this generation, present generation. How much ever they earn to their needs, they are not happy.
Satisfied.
No, satisfied.
Again, very practical question.
And even from the peon to the boss, they are not happy with their work.
Yeah.
They are always stressed. To come out of from the stress, this karma and our performing responsibilities, how it helps us?
Absolutely, very good question. Again, it is very eloquently, very efficiently, and very practically dealt with in Bhagavad Gita. So Krishna Paramatma is concerned with the sources of stress. So earlier also he had said about the sources of stress, but in this adhyaya he categorically mentions, Arjuna asks the question as to, despite this scientific theory of being most efficient performers, why do we fail to be efficient and happy performers? He says, Kamaesha, Krodhaesha, Rajoguna Samudbhavaha, Mahachano Mahapapma, Vidyaina Mehavairinam. To tell this in the most modern or common terminology, there is no contentment today. Satisfaction is not there. The more we need, the more we want to get. Mahasano, Mahapapma, this kama, desire, is Mahachanaha. Mahat Ashanam Yasya Saha. It has got food, always devouring anything which you give. Then Mahapapma, and it is very sinful, it generates the negativity in your thinking. So Vidyaina Meha Vairinam, he is your Vaidi. And earlier he has given how our own power of reasoning gets affected by the way in which we live. Dhyayato Vishayan Punsaha Sangasteshu Upajayate Sangat Sanjayate Kamaha Kamat Krodho Vijayate Krodhat Bhavati Sammohaha Sammoha Smriti Vibhramaha Smriti Bhramshat Buddhinasho Buddhinashat Pranashyati. We are all in that situation. So earlier I spoke about the need for having sustainable consumption. That is, our attitude towards consumption should be such that many more people of the society would be able to get their basic needs. You know, Gandhiji said that there is enough in this world for the needs of all the people, but not for the greeds of all the people. So situation of stress arises firstly because we don't do our prescribed duty in the terminology of Bhagavad Gita, and we have lots of expectations. This whole conflict between duty and rights, you know, what we call as rights. Rights again has been misinterpreted in the modern world. Rights means your adhikara, means your eligibility. So without performing duties, we are expecting our rights. So the system has very much been corrupted. Now the other thing, as an economist I can say that we have raised the expectations and the levels of desires in the different classes of people irrespective of their capabilities. Say everyone wants to have a car. By giving car loans, you have appeared to have made it easier, but it is much more stressful. How do you repay the loan? And instead of making the drinking water available through the taps, now in India we have made the groundwater to go down because we have stopped all the ponds and we have exploited the water resources much more than that is warranted, and so the result is the ecological imbalance has taken place, and then the safe drinking water now we think is only through bottles. So in short, your question is very correct. The answer to it is that we have all gone into the spinning mold of having desires leading to desires, more of that. Even in economics, there are models of development which are based upon zero consumption growth. That is, you need certain basic minimum things for life. So more than that you produce. It's not that don't produce it, but make it available to the rest of the society. So if everyone sacrifices his claim on resources and makes the production that is done by using of resources available to the best of the other people to satisfy their basic needs, then there won't be any discontent. So today, due to what is called as globalization, marketization, that we must have an appropriate level of globalization to safeguard our lifestyle, to safeguard our industrial culture. All small industries have been destroyed as a result of the global multinationals coming in. So what do the people who were producing in the small scale sector do? They will have to take to the trading they become poor, but their expectations of better life has not been subsided due to what is called as demonstration effect. So outside world and the people here are living higher levels of living, and so their craze for more and more has increased. So there is need for, I should say, a surgical approach to change the mindset of the people. And Krishna tells Arjuna, Kamayesha Krodhesha Rajoguna Samudbhava Mahashano Mahapapma Vidhyayina Miha Vairinam. So unless we cultivate, maybe we need a person like Gandhiji to live the life of the poor, to show that until every man in the country has enough clothes to wear, enough food to eat, I will be living like a common man, as a very poor man, like that. Great many rishis, great many yogis lived the life of minimum wants, zero wants, and even in economics there is a model of zero consumption growth and development. But today we have made consumption as the engine of growth. Increase the consumption, demands, and your growth will be there. But if the system cannot conform to the production required to meet those demands, then your inflation will come in. Then the aspirations would remain unaffected. Your question is very correct. To bring in better satisfaction, and we must at least cultivate in our own individual selves an attitude of contentment. If we analyze our own individual life, we keep on demanding more and more than what is really warranted. So an attitudinal change is required. It is possible by demonstration effects.
Guruji, now my question is about the domestic life, and it is pertaining to the word used adhikara, which has been dubbed as responsibility, not authority.
Yes.
Now from this perspective, if I take a look and if I want to take a dig at the traditional marriage system, where a husband is being vested with higher authority, higher adhikara than the wife. So in the changed perspectives and the social dynamics, in today's social structure, people want equality, not the adhikara based discriminations. So in this perspective, we are facing many ruptures in the marriages being conducted. So what is that solution that Bhagavad Gita offers for a peaceful married life, where adhikara becomes responsibility? And so what is the responsibility that a husband should owe or own to his life partner?
No, it's again a very practical question. Adhikara, again, in your own presentation, you have used adhikara in both the meanings, as a responsibility and also as an assertion of power. So if we take away that assertion of power part of it as a factor of responsibility, then the problem is solved. So You know, are you aware of the Saptapadi in the marriage system?
Yes.
In our culture, in Saptapadi, very few Purohits or maybe zero number of Purohits explain to the budding couples about the great meaning of the Saptapadi. They cut jokes with the relatives, with the husband and wife, makes all sorts of funny things, activities of the Purohits. But a true marriage conducted with in a manner which explains the meanings of the rituals would make the life much more harmonious, you know. And in Saptapadi, the points which you mentioned are covered. Both are equally responsible. The Grihastha is meant for enabling the husband and wife, the couple, to be eligible to perform many Varnashrama dharmas, Grihastha dharmas. And they are supposed to do it with equal sacrifice, with participation, and with equal involvement in the activity. Yes, traditionally it differs. In some places, husband and wife live with very proper understanding, with proper give and take. But in some areas, even in Karnataka, we find in some places husbands are very overpowering and wives are supposed to be meek and very much cowed down. Now, all these have come out of practices. But Bhagavad Gita says that your responsibility as the manager or the chief of the house is to look after the entire family with equal disposition of love, affection and responsibility. Again, let me be a little personal, you know. We were 8 children to my parents, 5 sisters and 3 brothers. And my father always used to get up at 4 o'clock and he used to teach us 4:30 to 7:30 the Sanskrit and Shastras, nothing else, nothing else. And the attitude and the culture which he inducted in us, at least in me, made me get always first rank, nowhere in mathematics, in sociology, in economics, everywhere first rank. But he was, if one day I got up late at 5 o'clock, he would only say, why you did not get sleep today, that is enough for me. Next day I will get up before he got up. He himself was getting at 4 o'clock and was asking us to get up at 4 o'clock, 4:30. But today the parents, how do? They do not function what they preach, and they have all sorts of laziness in them, but they keep on goading the children to perform their duties. So there is need for transforming the way of functioning of people at different layers. That's why Krishna says later on, Yadyada charati sreshtaha tattadevetaro janaha sayat pramanam kurute lokas tadanu vartate.
Thank you.